In this video I'm going to be showing you how to replace these crusty old drive flanges for these nice shiny new heavy duty ones. First off, we're going to need some tools, so let's take a look at what we're going to use. Now here we've got the drive flange, the old drive flange and the old cap. We're going to need a flat bladed screwdriver for removing the cap off the old drive flange. Then we're going to need some circlip pliers for removing the circlip that holds the drive shaft into the flange. Then we're going to need a ratchet fitted with a 17mm socket for removing the 5 drive flange bolts. Then we've got that off. Then we need to replace the gasket. You can use these paper gaskets, but they are very brittle and they do rip. I've found that the brick part gaskets are a lot stronger and they just feel better. They just feel a bit more solid. And if you're interested, the part number is FRC 3988. Then you're going to need your new drive flange. This is a nice shiny heavy duty one with a new cap and a sealing O-ring. Then you're going to use a 52mm, find the 52, a 52mm socket for tightening up the cap. Then we're going to replace all the 5 bolts and thread lock them in and use a torque wrench to torque them up to 65 Newton meters, which should be there. So that's the plan of action. Let's do it. So the first job is to remove this cap here with the screwdriver. Now that reveals the drive shaft and the circlip and the shims. You use the circlip pliers to open up the circlip and it pings off. If it does ping off, just be careful you don't lose it, and give it a quick clean up and put that somewhere safe. And behind the circlip there is, well, on mine it might be different on somebody else's, but there should be a couple of shims. Now because we're not replacing anything, we're not changing the thickness of the drive flange, it's just a heavy duty one, we won't need any different shims. We'll be able to put these ones back on, so that shouldn't affect the drive shaft. And they can be a bit fiddly to get off as well. This one's being a bit fiddly. There's a thick one and a thin one. I'll show you them when I get them off. It's just being a little bit fiddly. There we go. There we go. And you can just see that's a thin one. Give it a quick clean up. That's the thin one and that's the thick one. We'll put those somewhere safe and then we can put them back on when we come to rebuild it. Put the gloves back on now. It's a bit chilly out here. So now we can remove the 17mm bolts. Now they might be a bit tight, so you might need to use a breaker bar on them. So far I'm getting lucky and they're all coming off. Now the reason for upgrading this drive flange is the splines can wear on the actual flange, which creates a knocking noise when you're taking up drive. Now I've got all kinds of knocks and things, and I'm just slowly working my way through the vehicle, trying to make it run smooth and quiet. And I've been wanting to change these for a long time, so whenever I change something on the car, I try and upgrade it. To speed it up, I'm going to cheat and use this. There we go, that's all 5 bolts removed. Now we're going to remove the drive flange. Now it can be suctioned onto the hub, so you might need to give it a tap. This one's moving quite freely actually. Now you might be able to see, I just bring the camera in, you might be able to see if there is any movement between the splines. Yeah, it's not terrible. Not terrible. No, it's quite solid, is that? But we're changing it anyway, so not a problem. So that's the drive flange off, and it looks like the gasket has come off with it, which is great. Means we don't have to clean it up. I will give it a quick wire brushing in, and I'm going to put a little bit of grease in there for the wheel bearing as well. Make sure no crap goes in. Eventually I will be swapping the wheel bearings out for brand new Timken ones sometime in the near future, but for now I'm just going to put some more grease in. There's no movement in the bearing anyway, but I'm just going to put a bit more grease in just to help it really. And then we've just got a case of building it back up. So a bit of wheel bearing grease. I'll just try and force it in as best I can really. And that's another reason I wear gloves. Grease is horrible stuff. Always handy to keep an old rag with you. Fresh new gloves. Bearings all been greased. Next stage is we want to put a new gasket on the new drive flange. I do apologise about saying flange a lot. It's just what it's called, and I can't think of anything else to call it. Heavy metal thingy. Don't know what else to call it. It is a drive flange. So the new gasket goes on. And then you just locate that one. bit of thread lock on the bolts, just a squirt. And locate that in the hole. Have to come back off, just line it up properly. So we thread lock all 4 bolts and put all 4 bolts in, but we leave one out. The 5th goes in the end of the drive shaft, so you can pull it out and the washer's on. Now handily, Land Rover decided to make the end of the drive shaft the same thread as these bolts, so you can use the 5th bolt to pull the drive shaft out. Nice to know somebody was thinking when they made this. Again, I'm going to cheat and do these up. I'm not going to do them really tight though, just get them in. Just to hold it. Then we use this bolt to pull the drive flange out. Like so. So now we can remove the final bolt from the drive shaft, put some thread lock on and pop it in the drive flange. There we go, now we can torque it up. And the torque is at 65 Newton meters. Now try and do these opposites so that it evenly tightens it onto the hub. And I always go around a second time just to make sure they're all tight. There we go. Now with the cap, I'm going to put a little smear of copper grease just on the inside so that it doesn't seize up and it's easy to get off in the future. And don't forget the O-ring. And 52mm socket. I'll just get the extension on that. I'm not going too tight, just tight enough so we don't want it flying off on the motorway or hitting anyone. And there we go, all done. And that's the new drive flange fit. Shame the bolts weren't the same colour, but my wheel nuts let the car down as well, don't they? They're all rusty and corroded. I am going to invest in some chrome ones eventually. So like I say, nice, simple, easy upgrade. Anyone can do this. It's probably a 15-20 minute job if that. So if you found this video useful or helpful, don't forget to give it a like, share it if you can, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It does help. And we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.